Hey guys, so how y'all doing? As you can see, this isn't the first video on my channel, but I had to just do a video for my public speaking class and upload it to YouTube. But I do plan to make something of this channel. And today I just had an idea to just put out a channel and see what you guys think. So my main content on this channel is going to be language, but I'm also interested in coins and music and languages and history in general. So I may make both long form and short form content on those, but my primary thing is going to be language. I do have like a main topic for this video, but I also have some ideas for my next few videos, and I will be talking about those ideas at the end. And y'all can comment on suggestions. So stay tuned for the main topic, and stay tuned for the ideas for future videos. I may actually make and put out a schedule for the next few videos that I'll do, if y'all are actually interested in this channel and want to stay tuned for the next couple of videos. But yeah. Okay guys, so the main idea for this video is to, as the title of this section says, to talk about just the silent letters in English as a whole, and really specifically words like letters and words in English that historically were pronounced but aren't anymore, for various reasons, either through sound changes, through borrowing into English, to resemble historical spellings, or because of Anglicization, or because certain sounds actually weren't really technically possible in English. For example, certain words from Greek. But how I'm going to structure this video is I'm going to first talk about major sections of words falling into different categories, and then were individual words from certain languages that can all go into one section of the video, because there's so few words that English has borrowed from them that have vestigial spellings, vestigial structures. So a quick explanation. I'm sure there's some fancy term out there, but I'm going to use the word vestigial, the term vestigial letters or word structures, because it really encapsulates what I'm talking about. Letters or word structures that used to serve a purpose in language but don't anymore, because they for various reasons, but a major reason is because they were borrowed into English. So yeah, the first set of words I'm going to talk about is words that were lost through. I'm trying to get my mind straight. That sounded weird, but I'm first going to talk about words that have sounds that were lost through sound changes within English, including Old and Middle English. So yeah, let's get right in. So the first set of words we're going to be looking at are words that we may have gotten from German, and there was a short time where Old English preserved the German pronunciation for a short time, but due to sound changes, there are words that no longer have certain letters pronounced. So night, both night as and not day, and the ranking in the feudal system. Me, na, nat, right, wrist, and answer. So I believe these were all brought to English from German into Old English, and there was a short time in Old English where night would have been pronounced knicked, the K and the GH would have been pronounced exactly how it looks like. Same with me, na, nat, right, wrist, and answer. All the silent letters that are in these words, they were at some point pronounced, but they aren't anymore. Just because of natural sound changes that every language goes through. Now, English is a weird language because it will go through natural sound changes but not adapt its language, not adapt its spelling, and many other languages will, so that it's not confusing for people, because those ideas would have been shot down immediately, I guess. But yeah. So yeah, these letters and these words were pronounced, but they aren't anymore. So the next set of words we're going to look at are words that all of them from French into Middle English after the invasion of England by the Normans. These were all borrowed into Middle English, and once they entered English, some of these letters just weren't pronounced anymore. So let's get right into that. So the next set of words we're going to be looking at is words that were lost through borrowing into English. Now this is different from Anglicization, because Anglicization actually entails changing the spelling. This is just changing the pronunciation. The spelling is maintained. All four of these words are from French. And the vestigial letters in these words were pronounced in French all the way up to right before they were borrowed into English, and then they just weren't once the English started pronouncing it like using those words. And they are chateau, cour, coup, and debris. Now, I don't really know how the EAU in chateau is like a vestigial letter, except that like an EAU wouldn't be pronounced O. So actually, yeah, that makes sense. In the word core, I'm talking about the word that's spelled CORPS. So yeah, in French, in Old French, the PS would have been pronounced in the word, along with the P and Q, and the S in debris. And something that more modern French has started doing is keeping the last letter of a lot of words but not pronouncing them anymore. So yeah, a lot of people say that that English is basically French. It's a Germanic language, so it's not a Latin-based language. But it is very similar to English, because they share about half of English's vocabulary. Because a lot of words that are synonyms in English, usually one of them came from German and another came from French. This isn't always the case, but a version, like a example that I like to use is the word cow. It came from German, but beef came from French, and this is because of the 1066 Norman invasion. So the Normans, obviously, because they were able to invade, they became the elite class, and the Anglo-Saxons who were already there after the Saxons came from Germany earlier, they became like the lower middle class. So many all the Anglo-Saxons that were in England at the time, they would have seen cows as they were alive, like in the field, because that's where the lower middle class were spending most of their time. But when when a cow is killed and prepared, it becomes beef, which is a cow as the elite French would have seen it after the Norman invasion. So that's just a fun little fact, and actually that's true of a lot of animal and food pairs. So a lot of the food equivalents of animals came from French, but those animals came from German. So yeah, the next set of words that we're going to be talking about is words that were that have silent letters in it because they were artificially added back in, either in Old French or Old and Middle English by scholars, and all of these words come from Latin through Old French and then Middle English, but sometime in Old French or Middle English, they were the silent letters were added back in so that they looked more like their Latin predecessors. So let's get right into that. So this next set of words we're going to be looking at all entered Latin and all entered Middle English through Old French, but they had their silent letters added back in to more greatly resemble their historical Latin words. So these words are det, doubt, indite, and receipt. So det comes from debitum, doubt comes from dubitare, indite comes from indictare, and receipt comes from recepta. So, as you can see, all of these letters that are silent now weren't silent in Latin because English is one of the only languages on earth that has the concept of silent letters. So yeah, all of these words, they had their letters pronounced in Latin, then they were borrowed into Old French, where they lost these letters, but also lost the actual letters in the spelling of the word, because that pronunciation didn't exist in that word anymore. So English inherited the French pronunciation, but they also inherited a more Latin looking spelling. So that's the breakdown that caused these four letters to go silent. So the next set of words we're going to be looking at are words from Greek, and all three of these letters, they were pronounced in Greek, but they when they entered English, the English weren't able to pronounce weren't able to pronounce these words if they had these letters. So yeah, let's just get right into that section. Alright, so these next three words all came from Greek. So actually, before I get into this explanation, I do want to point out that I'm only for each of these sections, I'm only listing a few examples. There are absolutely more words that are examples of each of these sections, whether they were letters that were lost through sound changes, lost through borrowing, added to resemble historical Latin spelling. So if there are more examples, I'm just naming just a few, so that this video isn't super long. So these next three words are words from Greek, where the first letter was pronounced when it was in Greek, but the first two letters are consonants that, like, the English mouth can't pronounce well in just the natural flow of conversation. And they're psychology, pterodactyl, and mnemonic. So we just pretend that those letters don't exist, but in Greek they were pronounced as, like, psychology, pterodactyl, and mnemonic. But in, like, when you're just using these letters, which are, like, these words which are prevalent in English, in the natural flow of conversation, the English mouth isn't really able to pronounce it well, and we aren't about to take, like, 4 tries to get it right before we move on with our conversation. So yeah, we inherited the Greek spelling, but we, like, added our own twist on it. So these next sections, I'm only going to put in one singular section, even though it's 3 different languages and 4 words in these 3 languages, and they're Italian, Irish, and Scottish Gaelic, or Scottish Gaelic. I'm in the next section, I'm just going to explain these, but they're all different in how certain letters are vestigial. So yeah, let's get right into that section. Alright, so for this next section, I'm just going to speed run these 4 words so that I can get into the part of the video that I'm most excited about. The words are gnocchi from Italian, shamrock and smithereens from Irish, and lock from Scottish Gaelic. So to start off, gnocchi, it isn't technically a word that has that has any vestigial letters. A G in Italian is just the standard for the nya sound, so it's like the equivalent of the nya in Spanish. So it's a completely valid spelling of the word gnocchi. And since English chose to keep it that way, it's a completely valid English spelling of gnocchi. So, something about English, it's really weird because it likes to pick and choose what words it keeps the same and what words it chooses to anglicize. I guess it's just like the difference in relations between the English and other words and other ethnic groups. So these two words from Irish, shamrock and smithereens, they're anglicized. So they don't have any vestigial letters or word structures because they're just completely valid English spellings. And also, technically none of these words are words with vestigial letters. They're just like weird anomalies in English. So from Scottish Gaelic we get loch, and this once again this is a completely valid spelling of the word because the CH represents the German H, so almost like that letter in Hebrew H, but sort of more towards the front of your throat, like H. So it's not really a H or a K exactly. It's somewhere in between. So we've just slightly changed in English. We've slightly changed the pronunciation of that CH from K to just a K sound, a K. So that's it for the main content of the video, and let's get into just looking at the future of this channel. So yeah. Okay, so I had to take a little break to do some work around the house, but we're finally at the part of the video I was most excited about talking about. So earlier today I was at church, and I had the idea for a YouTube channel, mostly about language, as I said at the beginning of this video, and I was just tossing ideas back and forth in my mind, and I decided on doing sort of a video series. Maybe this would be long term, maybe not. But it would be a video series where I'd be taking a look at the histories of different languages and using that as a way of seeing what other languages have influenced that language. So there are two different things I'd like to see in the comments. Either suggestions for languages I could look at the history of. I may just come up with a schedule for myself if I don't get any comments on this video, but I'd also like to see suggestions on like non-language content that I could do, because I'm also interested in like coins and music, and history and theology. So any of those I'd love to talk about on this channel, but I would like to make it clear that the primary purpose for this channel would be for talking about languages. Yeah, mostly talking about languages and just taking suggestions for what kinds of content I should put out. So feel free to comment either languages that you'd like me to talk about the history of, but also comment on what other content you'd like to see, either about coins or music or history or theology. I'd love to talk about my theological views, mostly to just put it out there, but also to see if anyone else has like the same views as me, and just talking about God and my faith and stuff like that. So yeah, feel free to comment on those, and I will see you in whatever the next video will be. So one more thing, this is going to be I don't know what the future of this channel holds, but this will be like on the longer end of what I would be thinking about doing, because I added in an introduction to the channel along with an introduction to the video, and like an ending part like a longish ending part that I wouldn't normally put in videos, but I really don't know what the future holds, because I may have shorter videos, I may have longer videos, because that's just how it works. So yeah, feel free, if you want, you can like and subscribe, like this video and subscribe to my channel. And this wasn't really for, my other video wasn't really for getting views on it, but if y'all like that video, feel free to check that out too. But see you guys in whatever the next video will be. Bye.